Hi everyone, my name is Alex, and I'm just an ordinary guy in his late 20s living in a small suburban town called Riverton, about an hour outside of Chicago. I work as a freelance graphic designer from home, which means my days are pretty routine. I wake up around 7 a.m., make a cup of coffee in my cozy two-bedroom house that I rent on the edge of town, and settle into my office nook by the window overlooking the quiet street. The neighborhood is peaceful, mostly families and retirees, with kids riding bikes in the evenings and dogs barking now and then. I like it that way. It's far from the chaos of the city where I grew up. My routine is simple. Check emails, work on client projects until lunch, maybe take a quick walk to the nearby park for some fresh air, then back to designing logos or editing photos until dinner. Evenings are for relaxing, watching Netflix, scrolling through social media, or calling my sister who lives a few states away. Nothing exciting, but it's stable. And after a rough breakup last year, I appreciate the calm. Lately, though, things have felt a bit off. It's hard to explain. Like, during my walks in the park, I've noticed this weird silence sometimes. The birds stop chirping all at once, and the air feels heavier, almost like someone's watching me from the trees. I shake it off as paranoia from too much screen time. Then there are these odd looks from strangers. Last week, at the grocery store, this older man in the aisle just stared at me for a full minute while I picked out cereal. His eyes were blank, like he knew something I didn't. I smiled awkwardly and moved on, but it left a chill. My house has its quirks too. It's an old place, built in the 70s, with creaky floors and drafty windows. Sometimes I get this odd feeling in the living room, like the shadows in the corners are deeper than they should be, even in daylight. I tell myself it's just the lighting, but it makes me pause and glance over my shoulder more often. One evening, after a long day of work, I was cooking pasta when my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a voice memo from an unknown number, no text, just an audio file. Curious, I played it. It was my own voice, clear as day, saying, "Hey, open the door." But I hadn't recorded that. My heart skipped a beat. I must have but dialed myself or something, right? I deleted it and tried to forget, but that small moment stuck with me, making me wonder who or what had sent it. After that weird voice memo, I tried to brush it off as a glitch. Maybe my phone was acting up or it was spam. But things started getting stranger. A few days later, while walking in the park, I felt eyes on me again. I turned and saw a figure standing far off by the trees. A tall person in a dark hoodie, just staring. They didn't move, even when I waved to see if they needed help. I hurried home, but when I looked back, they were gone. That night, my phone rang from another unknown number. I answered, and there was heavy breathing on the line, then a whisper in what sounded like my voice. "I'm coming over." I hung up and blocked it, but my hands were shaking. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. It was handwritten, "Missed you yesterday." No signature, just that. I showed it to my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly lady next door. She laughed it off. "Probably kids playing pranks, dear. Don't worry." But I wasn't so sure. That afternoon, while working, I got a text from yet another number. A photo of my front porch, taken from across the street. "Nice house," it said. My stomach dropped. How did they know where I lived? I started hearing footsteps outside at odd hours. Soft, deliberate steps crunching on the gravel driveway, stopping right by my window. I'd peek through the blinds, but see nothing. Once, I even called the police non-emergency line. The officer was polite but dismissive. Could be animals or neighbors. Keep an eye out, but without evidence. My sister, when I told her over the phone, thought I was overreacting. "Alex, you're alone too much. Maybe get out more." But she didn't understand the growing dread. I felt isolated, like no one believed me. The unease built. I double-checked locks every night, but the signs kept coming. A package arrived with no sender. Inside, a cheap recorder with a tape of me humming a tune I only do when alone. Then, while driving to the store, I noticed a car following me. The same dark sedan tailing for miles. I took random turns, and it mirrored me until I pulled into a busy lot and lost it. My friends online said it was probably coincidence, but I knew better. The fear was constant now, a knot in my chest. It all peaked one evening when I got home. There, on my doorstep, was a fresh handprint smudged on the door. Damp, like someone had just touched it. They had been here right at my house. I locked myself in, heart pounding, knowing the danger was no longer distant. It was at my door. That night, after finding the handprint, I couldn't sleep. It was around midnight, and the house was dead quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I was alone, as always, sitting in the living room with all the lights on, my phone clutched in my hand, ready to dial 911. The windows were locked, curtains drawn, but every creak made me jump. My heart was racing, thumping so loud I could hear it in my ears. I tried to distract myself with TV, but the volume was low. I needed to listen for any sounds outside. Then it started. A soft knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Slow and deliberate. I froze, my breathing shallow and ragged. Who would knock at this hour? I tiptoed to the peephole, peering out. Nothing, just the empty porch lit by the street lamp. Maybe a neighbor? But no, it felt wrong. The knocking stopped, and I backed away, shaking. Minutes passed in silence, my palms sweaty. Then, a voice from outside. "Alex? It's me. Open the door." My blood ran cold. It was my voice, exactly like me, down to the slight Midwestern accent. But I was inside. How? I didn't move. The voice came again, closer, like lips pressed to the door. "Come on. I know you're in there. Let me in." Shadows shifted under the door crack, as if feet were shuffling. My knees weakened. I leaned against the wall, trying not to hyperventilate. The doorknob rattled slowly, testing, turning. Click, click. Locked, thank God. But the voice persisted. "I have something for you. It's important." It mimicked my laugh, that nervous chuckle I do when stressed. Tears stung my eyes. My whole body trembled. What was out there? Person? Something else? I grabbed a kitchen knife, holding it tight, but my hands shook so bad I could barely grip it. Footsteps circled the house now, crunch, crunch, heading to the side window. A shadow loomed there, tall and distorted through the curtain. Tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. "Alex, look at me." My voice again, pleading. I wanted to scream, but fear choked me. The shadow pressed closer, a hand silhouette sliding down the pane. My heart hammered. I could feel sweat dripping down my back. Was it breaking in? What next? I bolted to my bedroom, locking that door too, hiding under the covers like a kid. The sounds faded, footsteps retreating, voice trailing off. "I'll be back." Then silence. I waited hours, knife in hand, until dawn. When I finally checked outside, nothing. No footprints, no marks. It had vanished, but I knew it had been real, too real. I barely escaped whatever that was. The next morning, I called the police. They came over, took my statement, and dusted for prints on the door and window. Nothing usable, smudges, but no matches in their database. The officer suggested installing cameras and changing my locks, but they treated it like a possible stalker case, not something supernatural. I showed them the voice memos and texts, but the numbers were burners, untraceable. "We'll patrol the area more," they said, but I could tell they weren't convinced it was serious. I told my boss about it, my main client, and took a week off work. My sister insisted I stay with her, so I packed a bag and drove to her place in Indiana. Being away helped a bit, but I couldn't shake the paranoia. I started jumping at every knock or phone buzz, always peeking through windows before answering the door. I quit freelancing from home and got a part-time job at a busy coffee shop in town, just to be around people. No more isolated routines. I even moved houses a month later to an apartment complex with security gates and neighbors on all sides. Safer, I thought, but I've changed. I'm more careful now, always checking my surroundings, varying my routes home, and I sleep with a light on. Crowded places feel okay, but quiet streets or being alone at night, no way. I avoid parks altogether, and that old house? I drive by sometimes, but it gives me chills. Friends say I'm overreacting, that it was probably a prankster with voice-modifying tech. Maybe, but the fear lingers. Then, a few weeks ago, something new happened. I was at my new apartment, settling in, when my phone buzzed late at night. Another voice memo from an unknown number. I played it hesitantly. My voice, whispering, "Nice new place." My heart stopped. How did they know? I deleted it and blocked the number, but it suggested this wasn't over. The danger might still be out there, watching.